What is up, everybody? Shwazy here, and in today's video, I'm going to be discussing 6 things that I love and 3 things that I think could be a little bit better on the 2023 Nissan Frontier Pro-4x. Alright, now the first thing I love about the Frontier is its exterior and interior styling. Starting off with the outside, this thing looks really muscular, really mean, and also just kind of upscale. I mean, it doesn't look like just your regular pickup truck. This is probably the best one in the market, in my opinion. You got this nice bulging fender flare on the front and the back, giving kind of a dune runner stance. The headlights look really different than all the other competitors out there, and I personally think they look nice. The grille has kind of this utilitarian effect to it. You've got this Frontier stamped into the grille itself. This is the lava red color is what the Pro-4x comes with, but that lava red on the Nissan badge looks really good. And then climbing below, I like the silver painted skid plates, and then the recovery hooks are also lava red color, but the front end looks very menacing. I'd be actually curious to see this in like a full-size pickup truck. Even though this does look very similar to the Titan, I particularly like this style a little bit more. You've kind of got this body line that just wraps into the door panel, and then I do like that this actually has kind of a lower driver and passenger window, similar to an F-150, and there's a look at what it looks like from the side. Nothing too crazy to report there. That's kind of more typical, but coming closer to the back, you have, again, a little bit more of that body line that just bulges out, giving it kind of that bulged out fender flare look to the back. And then the taillights look really good as well. They have LED taillights and they have running lights over here at the top and bottom. I like the Pro-4x badge. And again, a little bit more of that stamping on the tailgate. It says Frontier back there. And just, I think it's a particularly good looking truck. I didn't really like the previous generation much, probably because it was just so dated. But in my opinion, this is probably the best looking midsize pickup truck in its class. You know, jumping inside, the story is no different. Probably, again, one of the best in its class. You know, the door panel, you have this contrast stitching over here. You have more of that, what they call lava red trim piece over on the door panel. And then coming inside, take a look at these seats. These are probably one of the best in the industry. You've got this almost like looking carbon fiber weave contrast stitching. Take a look at the design on the seat itself. And then you've got Pro-4x stitched into here. And this really cool looking pattern on the seat as well. You got more of that stitching on the headrest. Just another look at those seats. They look really nice. More of that lava red trim on the grab handle. And then climbing inside, even your steering wheel has lava red on the Nissan badge and the contrast stitching on the steering wheel as well. I mean, they really put a lot of thought into this. Take a look at the gauge clusters. I mean, they have some more of that lava red as well. And just the styling in general, again, very utilitarian, very truck-like. You know, this isn't too smooth. This isn't too luxurious. You're not sitting in this thing thinking you're in a luxury car. But it also has some nice amenities. I mean, you got some more of that contrast stitching here. You got a nice texture to this material, a little bit more rubberized material up here. So really cool looking use of materials. Even though they're all hard touch plastics, they have some nice textures to them. The interior just looks really nice. It looks like it's durable. It looks like it will stand the test of time. And I just particularly like the way these seats look, and with that contrast color on the door panel. Now, climbing into the second row, it's no different. I do wish they had a little bit more of that lava red trim around here, but they do have some contrast stitching where you're going to rest your elbow. And the seats are just as nice for the second row. Again, you still have some of that pattern. Sometimes the second row seats kind of start lacking that kind of quality, but this one doesn't. Really just a nice interior and exterior styling to the Frontier. And the second thing that I love, it's kind of a small feature that really has to do with the headlights. And I'm not just talking about the styling, I'm talking about the functionality. These things are incredibly bright. I'm going to throw up some footage right now of me driving at night and showing you exactly what it looks like. You know, the video doesn't actually capture it very well, but at least it'll give you an idea of how bright these headlights are. It's often an overlooked feature on cars because, well, they're just headlights. They're all going to work the same, but they really don't. These things are brighter than those in my Bronco. And when you turn your brights on, you have incredible visibility, especially when you're driving in like a dark canyon, which I just did recently in this Frontier. Okay, now the third thing that I love about the Frontier is just its size. I think this is the perfect size for a pickup truck. Unless you need, you know, more towing capacity, more payload, there's really no reason to buy a full-size pickup truck. This is more maneuverable. It can fit into a parking spot. It's only about 210 inches long, which is not that much longer than just your 3-row Ford Explorer or something like that. And it's just kind of the perfect size inside and out. I particularly like the fact that you can actually reach into the truck bed and grab things out of the back. Now, there have been so many times where I had to, you know, step on a tire or a bumper just to reach something in the back of a full-size pickup truck, whereas here, it's really easy to reach, really great accessibility. And I like the fact that Nissan actually made some really cool improvements into the truck bed. You've got this track system that Nissan calls UtiliTrack, and what that is you can actually unwind this little bolt over here, and by doing so, you can actually maneuver or change the position of this tie down to wherever you need it to along these rails inside of the truck bed. And so, you know, you don't have to just be confined by the typical tie downs that you have in the back of a truck, you know, over here and then over in those corners as well. You can actually adjust it to wherever you need it depending on what cargo you're hauling. I think that's a really smart feature that more trucks need to integrate, because there have been so many times I've loaded something in the back, I'm trying to take a strap all the way to this corner to try to, you know, finagle it in and try to tighten it up, whereas if I had something like this, I could just move this hook to wherever I need it to be able to get a shorter strap and do it in a quicker amount of time. The next thing that's really cool about this cargo area is you do have a 120 volt power adapter back here, so you can plug in a bunch of different devices and have fun when you're tailgating. Continuing on the size motif, I like the size of the interior as well. It's not too small where you feel like you're cramped, but it's not so large that you can't reach over and grab stuff on the passenger side, or even reach back and grab something from the second row. There are so many times where I want to, you know, grab my dog or something, or give her something, or even grab my coat from the second row, and I can't do that because, you know, the seats are so far back. Now that brings me to the fourth thing I love about the Frontier, that even though it is a small-ish mid-size pickup truck, there's tons of storage. Starting off with the door panel, you do have a cup holder over there and the pretty big storage compartment in the door, but that doesn't stop just there, of course. You do have this pretty massive storage compartment underneath the infotainment screen. You can still fit, you know, a big phone, a wallet, or whatever you want there. And then you also have the wireless charging pad, which you can place your phone at. You also have a pretty large storage compartment over here where your armrest is. That's bigger than the Chevy Colorado I recently reviewed. You also have a little bit more storage, open storage at least, that you can put stuff up here like keys or a wallet. And then of course you have, you know, your glove compartment. That's pretty standard. But then let's move to the second row, because that even gets more storage. Moving back here, of course, you have more storage space in the door panel on the driver and passenger side, but there's also storage underneath these seat cushions like you would expect from like a full-size pickup truck. By pulling on this lever over here, you can lift up this entire seat cushion, and that gives you access to quite a bit amount of space underneath the seat cushions. And you can actually, I think, remove this tray. So by pulling out some of these little plastic bolts over here, you can actually remove this tray and give you kind of a more flat loading floor. But that is a good amount of space for a mid-size pickup truck. If you don't get the Fender audio system, which this particular vehicle does have, you're going to have even more storage underneath the driver's seat. But right now, I believe that's just a subwoofer. So that is all interior storage, which is a pretty good amount of space for a mid-size pickup truck. All right, next let's talk powertrain. That is the fifth thing I love about the Nissan Frontier, and that is the fact that this has a class-leading 3.8 liter V6 that produces 310 horsepower, 281 pound-feet of torque. And I gotta say, its low-end torque, or that low-end acceleration when you're going from like 0 to 30, is really quick. It will actually throw your head into the back of the headrest, and it will actually throw some stuff out in the back, like you saw in maybe my full car review. This thing's actually pretty quick. Now, Car and Driver says 0 to 60 in about 7.5 seconds. I could believe it just because the power starts to taper off a little bit after 30 or 40 miles an hour, but from 0 to 30, this thing could probably beat the majority of the competition, even some of the turbocharged competition that you see from like the Ford Ranger. This engine is also mated to a 9-speed automatic transmission, which is a really good transmission. It's not a CVT, and it has those higher gears to get you a pretty good fuel economy. You're looking at 17 in the city and 22 on the highway for a combined 19. Now, I have personally averaged around 22 mpg driving this primarily on the highway, so the EPA numbers are pretty accurate overall. Now, the last thing that I love about this vehicle really just has to do with the technology. Now, I will say this is the top-of-the-line Pro-4x, and this particular vehicle is included with pretty much every single option. But even still, at around $46,000, this thing has a 10-speaker audio system. You've got a 7-inch instrument gauge cluster display, which is not offered by all other competitors. You've got this Mac Daddy 9-inch touchscreen, 8 inches base, but this is the upgraded 9-inch. And most of the competition, the largest they offer is an 8-inch touchscreen. So this is already an inch larger than a majority of the competitors. You do have a 360-degree camera with plenty of different angles, which is perfect for off-roading. Also, as of 2023, you've got wireless Apple CarPlay and wired Android Auto. You also have a heated steering wheel and heated seats with two-way adjustability for both the driver and passenger side, and you have a wireless charging pad. So all of the technology and amenities that you may not even get in a luxury car, let alone a mid-size pickup truck. Okay, now that we finished off the things that I love, let's talk about 3 things that I think could be a little bit better on the Nissan Frontier. Okay, my first constructive criticism is the seats. Now, don't get me wrong, I love love the way these look. I mentioned that in the things that I love about the vehicle. The only thing I don't like is how they feel on longer road trips. So I just drove this car on a short-ish road trip. It was about 200 miles, but near the end of my 2.5 hours of driving, I felt like these were getting a little bit uncomfortable, particularly in this lower lumbar area. I felt like it was just a little bit more pressure on my back. Now, that is a personal subjective opinion, but I will say that these are not as comfortable as the zero gravity seats in the Nissan Altima or any of the Infiniti products I've driven. I just think they're a little bit on the firmer side. Like, this seat cushion is pretty soft, but this isn't that soft. Doesn't have that much give to it. It's just not the softest seat. I mean, this bolstering is just pretty thick. It's really up to you to decide. I recommend you take a seat in one and see how you think it feels, but personally, I just think these should be a little bit softer. Now, that being said, the competition doesn't really offer anything better by any means. I mean, I've driven in the Colorado. I think those seats were pretty comfortable overall, but the seating position on this is much better than that in the Tacoma. So you really have to take your pick. It's not like the competition offers really plush couch-like cushion seats. It's just the fact that I wish these were a little bit softer. And given the fact that these are still zero gravity seats, according to Nissan, I really wish they were more similar to what's that in the Altima that I reviewed earlier, because those were incredibly plush seats to sit in. Now, for my next area of improvement, I'm going to talk about this 9-inch infotainment screen. Now, I actually love the size of it. I think it's actually the perfect size for a vehicle of this size, for like a mid-size pickup truck, but my complaint here is the software. I've mentioned this in the Mitsubishi Outlander that I reviewed and other Nissan products. This is kind of the older generation software. The Nissan Altima had an updated software system, which was much better than this one. It's very easy to understand. Like, there's nothing complicated about it. You got your quick access buttons here at the bottom. My complaint is just really has to do with how laggy it is. It's just a little bit on the slower end. I particularly really like the Chevy or GMC software that's really quick to respond. This one's just a little bit on the slower end. The graphics themselves are actually really high quality. The resolution of the screen is perfect. You know, the buttons work pretty well as well. I just think that the software needs a little bit of a reboot to be able to kind of keep up with some of the competition. Now, I had a Toyota RAV4, which had a similar software to the current Toyota Tacoma, and it wasn't that much better. Honestly, I think this touchscreen is a little bit better than that, but I can't say that this is a class leader in terms of software. The 360 camera is really good. Resolution isn't fantastic. I think the camera quality could be a little bit better, but not all of the competition offers that, so I'm really just sticking to the software here. I just wish it was a little bit snappier. And the third and final thing that I wish was a little bit better is the use of plastic materials on the interior. Now, if you guys know me, that's one of my big complaints in all vehicles. And I'll be honest, it's not as big of a complaint on this truck because, well, this is a pickup truck. It's meant to be, durable, utilitarian, it's meant to stand the test of time. But there are a couple areas where I wish they just improved things. Like, I really like this material over here. It's not super, soft touch, but it's not hard touch plastic. It's got a little bit of texture to it. I wish they utilized that along the cabin over here on the dashboard, or at least on the top of this door panel. This is a hard touch plastic, and unfortunately, when you're driving down the road and resting your arm up here or your elbow up here, like I normally do, because that's kind of a perfect position for the 10 and 2 notches, you're going to be hitting this hard touch plastic, and I just don't really like that. I wish this was a little bit softer, and even though they've added some texture to these hard touch plastics, which make it look a little bit better, a little bit more premium. Really good job on that, because the Colorado I reviewed had much lower quality plastic materials on the interior. It's still just something that could be improved on the interior. Now, this is actually a norm for the mid-size pickup truck segment. None of the other competitors offer a more premium, soft touch material on the interior, but that is something that could be improved and make this thing a class leader amongst the competition. If they had this all soft touch material, I would say, this is definitely the most comfortable and plush interior of all of the competitors, but unfortunately this is kind of just the same as all of the others because you have that hard touch plastic. That being said, you do have some leather wrap surfaces or fake leather wrap surfaces over here, and of course you do have leather seats, which is really nice to have, but just for the most part, some of this stuff is just cheap plastic that could be a little bit improved. Well, there you have it, folks. That was 6 things that I love and 3 things that I think could be a little bit better on the Nissan Frontier. Overall, I've been really impressed with this pickup truck. I think if you're in the market for a mid-sized truck, you'd be dumb not to take a look at this and see if it kind of fits your budget and your lifestyle. This isn't miles ahead of all of the competition, but there are some features on the interior and exterior that are kind of class-leading features, because this is kind of the most modern version of the competition. You know, the Tacoma is aging, so is the Colorado. They're coming out with a new one this year, and it'll be interesting to see how that one compares to this. But for now, this is kind of the latest and greatest, and I'm really impressed. I like what they did with it, and there's some really cool technology on the interior, along with some smart features in the truck bed. But let me know your thoughts on the Nissan Frontier. Would you pick this over the competition, and why? And what are your favorite features, and what are your biggest areas of improvement? But if this is your first time stopping by, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for all of the weekly videos. I do everything from pickup trucks to sedans to electric cars. Also, check me out on all the social media down in the description below. And as always, everybody, I hope you stay schwazy, stay healthy, have a wonderful day.